Hey guys, what's going on? This is Knife Standards. Today I'm going to be doing my review of the Boker Urban Trapper Coco Bolo. I know that is a mouthful, but this is the Urban Trapper. It is a Brad Zinker design produced by Boker, and the scale material is Coco Bolo. So Coco Bolo is actually a wood, if you did not know already. So we have wooden scales. They are very sleek, very cool. I only have one other knife in my collection that has wooden scales, and this is my first locking knife with wooden scales. So pretty classy, definitely a gentleman's carry. We are going to get into that in just a second. We'll talk about the materials and what I think of this knife from Boker in just a second. Of course, you guys can follow me on Instagram at Knife Standards. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel here on YouTube, please do so. I always forget to mention this, but I have a newsletter. You can go to knifestandards.com. On the homepage, you scroll down a little bit, and there's a place to enter your email to subscribe to my newsletter. That is for my designs. I send out, usually like once or twice a month, I'll send out, it depends on if I have a new product or a new design or a new drop coming, but I'll send out a newsletter. That is where I make the first announcements for any new designs or new variations, anything exciting and new drops will be in my newsletter at knifestandards.com. So go ahead, sign up for that if you're interested, and let's get this out of the way. All right, so Boker Urban Trapper Coco Bolo. Let's talk about the materials real quick. It is a flipper only. You can see that little kind of minimal flipper tab. This is actually one of my favorite flippers of 2025. I was really surprised by this one. Materials, we have Coco Bolo scales. We have VG10 blade steel. You can see that right there. I'll talk about the BZ in a second. And we have titanium liners. You can see the anodization on the titanium and titanium pocket clip. I'm pretty sure these screws are steel. But kind of interesting construction, unique construction with the titanium liners and the titanium pocket clip, especially the liners. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. The designer is Brad Zinker. He's also a custom maker. I forget which blade show it was, but I went by his table. I don't know if it was Blade Show. Well, it was either Utah, Blade West, or Blade Texas. It was one of the two. And I went by his table. His designs and his work and his customs are very recognizable, at least to me. They have a very strong, kind of sleek, gentleman's carry design language. And I feel like if you put them in a lineup, you can definitely pick them out right away. They kind of scream out, this is a Brad Zinker design. So I'm sure you guys have actually seen his work before, even if you don't know that it's Brad Zinker. I'll just go over real quick he has a ton of versions and variations of this design with Boker. And they just have a little blurb about him. Brad Zinker is a custom knife maker from Florida. Slender designs, narrow blades, light reduced handles. Yeah, the weight of his design. So it's incredibly light. There we go. Okay, so he has one of the Urban Trapper in micarta, G10, ton of different materials. There's a fancier one with Coco Bolo and Damascus blade steel. Also, he uses a lot of speed holes, not just in his production knives, but in his customs too. So you'll see the holes in the titanium, which again reduces the weight of the knife. The speed hole one looked really cool. Urban Trapper Damas steel with speed holes. And they have some in carbon fiber. Very cool. Okay, so enough of that. Let's talk about the flipper, and then I'll talk about the construction right after that. But anyway, if you were wondering, Brad Zinker does great work. So very cool knives. His customs are incredible. If you're into gentleman's carry, pretty rocking. Flipper only. And for something to be flipper only, I feel like it really has to be a dialed in detent, really snappy, on the stronger side, but not too strong. I don't want to, crush my finger every time I open the knife, but at the same time, I don't want it to fail. And by fail, I mean when I push the flipper tab, I don't want the knife to come out halfway. I want it to deploy all the way. So let's test it out. There you go. So super snappy. Yeah, so I failed that time, but only because my finger kind of got caught. I'll try and fail it one more time. Let's see. Yeah, no, this is really hard to fail, almost impossible to fail. And the reason for that is where the flipper tab is placed. Super intuitive. And then also the detent is really nice. So it's very snappy. As soon as you break the detent, the blade deploys. So detent is dialed in. Also, you know, for a flipper, I don't want this to stick out too much. You can see on the flippers that I own, very minimal tab. This is probably the biggest flipper that I own. Tab just does not stick out that much. That is how I prefer it. I don't want a giant pocket pecker flipper. Nice. Also, you know, with flipper knives, you can either do the push button, kind of push in, or the light switch. This definitely calls for the light switch, where I'm going to pull down. Boom. There we go. So as far as the blade goes, I'm calling this a drop point. It is hollow ground. Definitely feels hollow ground. It's not super thin, but hollow ground, and you have this kind of horizontal satin finish on the BG10. Again, BZ for Brad Zinker. We already talked about that. I'll go over some of the specs real quick. Overall length, 7.68 inches. Blade length, 3.43. Blade thickness, 0.10. And weight, 1.8 ounces. So incredibly light. It's like shockingly light. 1.8 ounces. Yep, flipper. Now they're calling it a frame lock, but I disagree. One interesting thing though about this knife is the construction. So let's talk about that real quick. Where's the pivot? So I'm assuming this is kind of like TRM, where they have the pivot underneath the outermost scale. So if I took this off, I'm assuming there would be a pivot under there. This is on bearings, by the way. But the other interesting thing about the construction, other than it being pivotless, is the liners are titanium. So it's titanium on steel, when in general, if it's a liner lock, it would be steel liners. So the steel is in contact with the steel. Or you'd have titanium liners with a steel insert, but there's no insert here. So I'm assuming that let's see, I'm assuming this is carbidized, so it would prevent lock stick. There is a little bit of lock stick. It doesn't bother me. You can hear a little bit of that, but that wears in my experience. Same deal with the Monterey Bay knives, Sea Otter, and now you can hear nothing. This had a little bit of lock stick when I first got it. It breaks in, so I'm not worried about that. But it is interesting that they went with titanium liners instead of steel liners. I don't know. Maybe it's a weight thing. I'm not sure. Now, the pocket clip is cool. You also have one standoff, so very minimal construction. The pocket clip is nice. It does not bother my hand at all. I'm kind of picky, as you guys know, with pocket clips. It's comfortable. Nothing to complain about. Now, it's anodized blue, so are the liners. To me, that kind of throws it off. I feel like this is super gentleman's carry, classy, wooden scales, coco bolo, this kind of horizontal satin, and then you have the blue ano. I'm not sure why it's anodized, but if you really don't like it, you can either re-anodize it or strip the ano off. I love this color blue, but I don't know if that really fits with this. Maybe even, I'm not a huge gold ano guy either, but gold ano would be cool. I don't know, or just plain. Just leave the titanium as it is. I don't know. The action, again, super snappy. It's easy to carry, gentleman's carry. It's sleek. What do you guys think of this knife? As far as ergos go, it's comfortable because, you know, I really like this profile, this kind of straight profile. No hot spots. The Coco Bolo is nicely chamfered. Pretty solid offering from, you can hear the little bit of lock stick. But again, I think that will break in. Pretty solid offering from Brad Zinker and Boker. I know that he does designs with a lot of different companies. I've definitely seen his designs from different companies, but I feel like they knocked this one out of the park for the price, so it's right around $150. And I think for the Coco Bolo, you're getting titanium, VG10. Would I like to see an upgraded blade steel? For sure, definitely. But I think that, you know, it's Brad Zinker's kind of classic design. The flipper action is good. Hand satin or horizontal satin. I think this is right. I don't think it should be more than 150. I think this is kind of right where it should be. And if you're wondering, are these available? No, they're not. This is coming, I think, end of May. So you can get different versions of this knife, but I think the Coco Bolo is coming end of May. Double check on that. And I normally don't look up the prices of these knives. I try and guess, or I try and have, I don't let that affect, my review or my overview. But I think that's, sometimes it's good to look them up beforehand, or at least I don't think I knew the prices when I was doing my overview. Anyway, all right, there we go. Boker, Urban Trapper, Coco Bolo, sleek gentleman's carry. Let me know what you guys think of this, and I will catch you guys later.